What's happening out there in YouTube land? Yours truly, Rockin' Dave, the real deal. North Fort Myers, Southwest Florida. I didn't send out a notice because I really had no intention to go live, and I thought, well, wait a minute. I thought maybe I should just. I'm not gonna be on too long. And I see we had some people. John Dawson, what is happening? Let me see. I'll make sure I got the names right here. What is happening? Thank you for tuning in, Karen. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. So, this is a 12 string that we had bought an Ibanez. It's a beautiful finish. Look at that. We call that like a curly maple finish, quilted maple top. It's the top is that, the sides, the back. Uh, the neck isn't, but the name. It's an Ibanez. Yeah, Abalone, Abalone. 12 fret marker, and the action is surprisingly low because if you've ever played a 12 string, that could be a little bit challenging. And I do have lights on you, but I do got to change these strings. I do have the high E. What happened was the doubled string, it popped, so it still has just the one high E. The B string, I have it tuned in fits, so it gives a real unique tone when you're playing. Might be simple like B minor. I mean D minor. What I'm talking about. So it just has this really cool blend, and it does have a nice electronic, pickup system. I want. Oh yeah, and here's your output. You could go 1/4 inch or XLR. Now when I'm not using these guitars, I always take the battery out because they'll start to corrode inside. And you could take that, like a toothbrush, if this ever happens to you, we get a little corrosion inside where your pickup is, or where your battery compartment is, and take a little toothbrush, an old one. That's what's good about saving old toothbrushes. They got some use. You could, use them, and just get the excess acid from the battery acid out. But I want to point something out. These two little buttons. It does have a built-in chorus, which sounds beautiful, and then one's the chorus, and one is the phase reverse. Okay. The reason why I'm gonna point that out is these two little buttons are rubberized, and I don't know if this ever happened to any of you down here or anywhere, but if you like down here in Florida, it gets very, very humid, and over a course of time, these get real sticky. This happened also with my Snark tuner. I think it finally crapped out, but since it's rubberized, over a course of time, it gets like this real weird sticky. So I'm not really too big of a fan of stuff like that, man, because it's a pain. It's just a pain to take care of. But it's a beautiful guitar. We got this. This was one of the last guitars. It wasn't the last one. It was one of the last guitars we bought up in Naperville, Illinois, at the Guitar Center up there when we were still living in the Aurora, Naperville area there, which is a suburb of Chicago. And beautiful guitar. It was used. Believe it, I was using it. Whoever owned it didn't play it that much, and absolute mint condition. So we got it at a killer price. So that's great sounding. I want to thank everyone that tuned in last couple of our live streams. They were it was a lot of fun. Yesterday's gig, we not only were we streaming live, but I recorded the whole gig on our Zoom Q8 camera, which it's the old version. So the Q8 camera is this guy right here. I got my camera in the I don't have it in the box, but I got it in the gig bag. It's this guy right here. And what's cool about it, let's see, yeah, you could go. This is the older version. This is not the updated version. So you could go. Actually, you could go either XLR or 1/4 inch. What's really cool with this, you could combine it with the direct source and overhead mic. So you could have them both going at the same time. And yeah, if you look, there's the volumes for the left and right here, which when you go direct, it's these two right here. Actually, I think it's 1 and 2. Your left and right is the overhead. And that, let me turn it around here. That also has its own volume for here. So you got the two volumes for going to direct, and you got the overhead volume. I think it's very well thought out. Very, very well thought out. And what's really cool with that is when I listen to a little bit of the playback, you get the audience response and people walking by, and then plus you get a clean direct signal. So that thing is great. Um, I think Old Man Dan has the updated version. Matter of fact, I know he does. He was talking about he did a couple of videos with it. It's a great camera and totally awesome. So, and I want to give a good shout out to Old Man Dan. He rocks. He's a great guitar player, man. Great guitar player and great musician. He really is. He's very creative. I really, really like that. Very inspiring. So, I titled this, a new chapter. I'm still be doing what I'm doing, but what I'm kind of referring to is, we are making progress down here in recovery mode, and as you can see, people are coming out. Some places got hit harder than others. Now, where we were at yesterday, it's a town called Estero, which is just south of Fort Myers, and it's called the Miramar Outlet Shopping Center. And Saturday's gig, we were at Mercola Market doing our gig that we usually do there when they have their comedy night. So, and that's in Cape Coral. So there are certain places that did not get as much damage as others from the hurricane, but as a whole, it affected everybody. Now, um, this is pretty interesting. When they had this on the news too, a little while back, when they were talking about Fort Myers Beach. Now, Fort Myers Beach is a town that's right on the beach, so it's just like southwest of Fort Myers, but because it's on the beach area, it's known as Fort Myers. It's actual town known as called Fort Myers Beach. Um, that place got hit so hard, man. That place got hit hard. If you were to pull up videos, you'll see some videos now more of the progress, but especially the videos like a day or two right after Hurricane Ian, you will not believe it. I got video footage. We will be putting a montage of video footage. We'll be putting it up on our channel. I'm gonna talk with Deb, and if she doesn't have much time, much I'm sure she will. She just got a new laptop, so she'll be able to do really cool editing. Um, if not, then I could, on mine, I could, load it up and put it up. But we're kind of waiting until after the Christmas holidays. I was gonna do this before, and I thought, it's it's still very fresh in people's minds. And we get people that are down here. They get on my channel. They check out our videos and our live streams, and maybe it's not a good time before Christmas. Maybe on the year end, how everyone does their reflecting back on 2022. Um, I'm sure there's people putting stuff up right now. What makes it kind of difficult for me is that and when I'm on my driving gig, I still see debris. I still see stuff. It's like this constant reminder of the destruction, constant. And we're still on their list for our roof. It's just the way it is. It's about 75% of places got hit extremely hard, and the ones that did not get hit that hard still got damage, especially to the roofs, because it was blowing debris all over the place. And we had a couple of leaks, not immediately after the hurricane, but you know, after the was it Nicole hit on the no, it wasn't. I forget what it was. It was the other hurricane that hit on the east coast, and it did some devastation over there too. So we're on that recovery mode. But let me get back with this situation with Fort Myers Beach and what a new trend we could possibly be seeing. That's why I titled this live stream a new chapter with a question mark. as a lot of people know, and especially my musician friends down here, we lost like 75% of places to play at. A lot of those places that were in Fort Myers Beach, there was a specifically what's known as Times Square. Deb and I, we went there quite a few times, a lot of times, matter of fact. Matter of fact, I did a live stream not too about a year ago, or maybe a little longer. Anyways, what was so cool with Times Square, it was probably a block, maybe a equivalent to a block and a half, with what's actual known as Times Square, with the restaurants, and everyone's out there playing, and then you got the restaurants that are facing, the ocean right there, the Gulf, or I should say the Gulf. Anyways, so you got all those restaurants there. It was always packed. Everyone's eating. They got live music. Well, after the hurricane, it's like complete levitation. I mean, complete destruction. So they keep talking about it on the news. The update progress of Fort Myers Beach, and um, what you got the engineers getting together and they say, okay, when we rebuild down here, we're gonna have to make sure the building structures obviously have to withstand these hurricanes. Now, we might not never see another hurricane like that in our lifetime. I'm hoping in this area, or we could see one like that in 5 years from now, 2 years from now. Who knows? So everyone's got to be prepared. But it's going to take a long time because one thing that is tough down here is the permits. It takes a while for the permits, and because this is so fresh in everybody's minds with this destruction, what they're going to be doing is looking at all the options. Again, they're going to want to have these buildings come back, but strong to withhold a Category 5 hurricane. And with that being said, on the news about a week ago, they said when they were like reviewing the aftermath of this hurricane, they were saying, yeah, this thing should have been up to a Category 5 because the winds, especially in certain areas, those wind gusts got up to 202 miles an hour. But for most area, it was like 164 miles an hour wind. And when people are like testing materials, building materials to withstand hurricanes, they'll have them like in um, a building, like a test building. Now, how many hours are they actually testing it at that constant wind gust at, let's say, 164 miles an hour? Who knows? But the reality is that hurricane lasts for 7 hours, and the range was going from anywhere from maybe, I would say on the low side, just before the eye of the storm and a little after the eye of the storm, because that's the calmest point of the storm. Anywhere from 140 miles to 156 miles up to 160. And I know one area there was a guy that said he clocked it in at 202 miles an hour. So my point is, for about 7 hours, it's destroying a lot. So they're going to be rebuilding these buildings to withstand that. Obviously, and that makes sense. But now, how far down into the ground do they have to go? And a lot of this is all sand. So, okay, now we got to sit down and we got to, think this one out. Because once we have it built, we want it to last. We can't rush this. But we would like to get people down here for our end season. And there is people coming down, partly because this is their vacation. Some people got vacation homes, or they had vacation homes. Some people, they're just, in the kindness of their hearts, they want to come down and, help us out down here. And, some people just kind of curious to see. I've never seen any type of devastation like that. I know, being from the Midwest, we would get the tornadoes, but we never actually experienced living through a tornado. And then with the cold and ice. And so this is our really first time going through a major disaster to the point where FEMA and the military was feeding us, no power for 10 days. It was an eye-opening experience. It changes everything. It changes your whole perspective, how you see things, and what is important and what is not important. But now that being said, what could happen is now it's the ground is kind of level. It's a lot of debris. The debris is moved out. What was kind of brought up an option of for the restaurants is grabbing these food trucks and food trailers. Now this is not a new concept. This has been going on with people get the food trucks. Some of the restaurant owners, they got their brick and mortar building and then they have their trailer. They go out and they got the different. They'll go like farmers markets and stuff like that. You guys stay over there at the building, the main headquarters, and we'll be out and about with the food truck and that, which is great. But I could see this maybe becoming a trend where, for the restaurant owners, whether let's say they own the building with the insurance and everything, they just lost with the total destruction. They lost everything. With the people that are renting, they still lost because the person that owns the building, he lost the building. So no matter which way you look at it, the building's gone, nothing's happening. So how long could you go with no source of income coming in, right? So I could see where when these people, and I'm sure they got some grants from the government for the ones who rightfully deserve to get those grants, with the business. And I'm talking about the business loans. The personal loans, that's another thing. That's another thing. They live down here too. Not only do they lose their business, if they live on Fort Myers Beach, there's a chance, no matter depending where they're at, they lost their house as well. So, getting back to the business end here, if you go with a food truck, and if they have a designated area, well, they say, look, if they, at the Chamber of Commerce of Fort Myers Beach, they say, look, let's put all our heads together. Let's weigh in all our options. We want to build these buildings, bring these businesses back, but they got to be strong. These buildings got to withstand these storms. Okay, how long is that going to take? Get the engineers in. Okay, this is what could possibly take. How long it take? Okay, now we got to get the building permits. It's a whole process. It isn't just you go to Home Depot and start buying stuff and building. And a lot of you people know that out there. So I have a very strong feeling what was brought up at some of those meetings. I'm saying it's because it was brought up on the news, so they're getting their information from somewhere. Is these restaurant owners who probably do have these food trucks could say, look, if we want to get our businesses back, we want tourists to come back down, we could probably take this whole area of Times Square, this whole big radius, because you got the buildings, but then you got where the park area is and the other shops and that. So right directly where we had our restaurants, our waterfront, maybe we could clean this up right now, bring these food trucks in, bring in a designated area where we got little fencing area and like picnic benches and tree, because and awnings and stuff like that, or umbrellas. Because the reality is, before the hurricane and when these restaurants were there, people are outside enjoying the view of the ocean. So they were sitting outside anyway. So, and the restaurants did have it inside. The only thing you have to be careful is, when it rains and all, stuff like that. But it's not like it's raining 24/7, 365 days a week down here. So, a good option would be is these people get these food trucks. Yeah, you probably go through certain license, of course, licensing and permits for it. It's still like a food. It's like a movable food building. Inspections and all that. But it's a lot cheaper. And the reason why I say that because when we done one of the farmers markets we have done in Cape Coral, the guy just bought his truck, and I was talking with him, and I said, this is a really good idea. If I was into the restaurant, I might opt out and go this route. And my reason is that if it's slow in one area, I could pack up and go to another area. You can't do that with a building. but you do that with a food truck. And of course, you gotta get the permits. And I'm sure that's all worked out, or it should be. But it'd be a lot cheaper, and it'd be a quick way to get the businesses back in Fort Myers, especially Fort Myers Beach. And what they could do is, okay, so now we got the okay to start building. So let's start on this end over here, work our way so that we could still have open house. See, once you clean the area and you got the empty space, you're not doing anything with the empty space if you're not gonna, if it's gonna take you that much longer to get those permits. Well, why don't you utilize that space while it's empty, while there's nothing going on? Bring the food trucks in. These people that had their restaurants there, they could reopen up shop. Now there are some places that have opened up in Fort Myers Beach. As a matter of fact, there's a couple. Another place had just opened up. They were in parts, certain areas that were not hit as hard as like some of the waterfront, so they didn't lose their building. And maybe with some money and some friends and this, that, and the other, they got together and they cleaned house real quick, and had the inspectors come in because you'd have to have that. And they got up and going, which is cool. That's a good thing. As it stands right now, if it's 2 or 3 of those restaurants that's in that area that's doing this, they're gonna make a lot of money, providing people are the tourists are coming down. But see, they're trying to predict. They kind of have an idea. This season might be a little bit of a wash, but for next season, okay, a year comes by real quick. So if they're trying to project out a year, but yet it's gonna take maybe 3 months to get permits settled, or actually, you got to engineer it first. Once you got the game plan set, and everyone's agreed on that, now you get the permits for that. So it's time pushed back, and that time goes real quick, and then the building process. So you got to think in terms that we might not have it open up even for next season. So why don't we let the restaurant owners grab these food trucks, since this whole area is basically clean. We got the debris out of the way, this, that, and the other. So why don't we allow that? They'll bring the tourists back. Because what they're going to do is, what do they do? They're going to go out. They're going to sit right there on the bench and look at the ocean. When every time we've been down there, there'd be a lot more people outside than inside, unless it's really hot and they're inside. And yeah, I can understand that. But our in season down here is like after Thanksgiving and just before or just after Easter, sometimes a little bit before Easter, because it's a little bit cooler down here, so people come down. So that being said, what does that do for us musicians? Well, since it could potentially start to bring back more entertainment to Fort Myers Beach and other areas quicker than later. Because a lot of people, if there's no restaurant there, well, what are you gonna do? You can go out there and busk. But now, if the city's driving around and are saying, look, we need this area, you can't be here. We're working. We'll be building. We're cleaning up. We're doing whatever. Well, then you're not gonna be able to play. Safety hazard. So, I could see this as something happening, not just because of the hurricane. That's a big plus. I mean, a big reason. I don't like to say plus like it's a positive thing, but there's a good reason. But I had already seen this in the works with these food trucks and these people driving home, because in their minds, it's like, okay, we got all this overhead with the restaurant, and if it just happens to be this area is slow, no matter what we do, it's slow, and this happens. Well, if you could be mobile, you go somewhere else where it's busy. And if I'm thinking this, and other people, those restaurant owners are thinking the same thing. Again, when I talked to the guy when he got his food truck at that farmer's market we did, that was one of his big reasons why. You know, he could just pack up and go. So if they keep a designated area on Fort Myers Beach when it gets closer to hurricane season and where it could potentially be like another bad one hitting, these guys could just pack up, shop, and drive. You know, get out of Dodge. You know, get out of harm's way. Um, but with the us musicians, you know, you gotta be a little bit resourceful. You gotta understand this, and it's gonna change things. It could really potentially change certain things. Um, One thing is for the musicians. Okay, when we were talking with one of our friends, maybe it was on Sunday or Saturday. I mean, I think it was Saturday. Yeah. Um, you know, we were talking about how our approach is, and you know she agreed because that's why she has us. Because she says, you know, you guys are, meaning us, my wife and I, you guys are real easy to work with, and you seem to understand. And you know, we're different. We're not doing what a lot of other people are doing. Whether you like what I'm doing or not doing, that's irrelevant, and that's okay. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. They can still be my friend, you know. But we are different. Doesn't mean we're better than anybody. No, it's just we're different, and that helps. When you got too much going on over on one side, it opens up a void on this side. And when you know you got people that still like this kind of music or guitar music, you know, they go like this, yeah, rock and roll, and then if you're not doing anything that's intriguing to them, okay, like a lot of you guys and gals out there, you know, you want to see some maybe good guitar playing or good musicianship in that. I'm not saying that's not out there, but when you see all these bands playing the same stuff, you know, it gets redone. Plus, it's going to help these people because there's a lot of good musicians in these cover bands. It's going to kind of help them, you know, open up their eyes and try to, you know, evaluate. Which this is what I mean. It's important to have other streams of income coming in because, you know, I mean, they even took out some music stores. So you could say, well, if I'm not going to be gigging live, I could go over here, I could do this. And these type of situations, it could be also a challenge. So if you have other streams of income that's non-music related, and I don't mean to be negative or anything like that, but it's going to help you financially because this is another thing. Excuse me. This is another thing I've seen where people try to force themselves to make this their full-time gig, and they're not getting the gigs. And that's one thing before hurricane. Now let's say aftermath, post-hurricane, where there's no gigs or not nowhere near like there was. Now everyone's really hitting the panic button, and they're trying to get really forceful. You know, the restaurant and club owners, they took a harder hit than we did because they actually have the building, whether they're renting or owning, that partially got destroyed. Some of them got flooded, and they lost a lot of food. Some of their ice box and their freezers, walk-in freezers, got destroyed. One guy was telling us it was like up to about $100,000 of damage. That's a lot of money. So, getting back to when we're talking with our friends, we do what we do because we try to work with people, not against them. That'll really hurt you in the long run. So, for any of my musician friends out there, yeah, it gets frustrating when you're trying to book gigs and that. It does. And we all know there's bad restaurant owners, but there's also bad musicians too. It's you got to look at both sides of the coin, you know. And when you get a really good, when you get a good gig with a restaurant club owner, and maybe the first upfront pay seems to be very cheap, but when you look at it that you're booked out a year or two, and you're there every week, you add that up, and let's see what you really get, you know. So, and that's just one place. plus the other places you're playing at. Now, I'm not trying to make excuses for a cheap pay, no, but at the same time, try to look at some of these people's point of view too. Try to put yourself in their position, because some of them do have it harder. Some of them make it hard on themselves, but when you have someone that's like that, just walk away. You don't have to, keep trying to force them to give you a gig. You just walk away. You don't have to, don't blab it all over the place and bash and trash them, because they'll remember that. You'll ruin your name by doing that. But just try to understand what they're going through. And you know what? I've learned here that by you doing that over a course of time, you see, everything is over a course of time. They're going to remember, you know what? This guy calls me, but he doesn't bug me. It's like he'll call me, a month will go by, maybe 2 or 3 months, and he'll call back. And every time he's called me, or if it's a girl, she called me, they have not been forceful. They haven't trashed me. They haven't been forceful. They're willing to work with me. I'm going to remember them. And over the course of time, when they deal with the other people that want to trash and bash, and I need this and I need that. one club owner says, why don't they get a job if it's that tough for them? And we all, especially after hurricane, we all have it tough. If they're having it that bad, go out and get another job. I mean, if you're hurting for financially, that's, you got to figure it out. We're all adults here. But see, this comes from this mindset of the doom and gloom, and I know, because trust me, I've been at the frustration point where I'd be all pissed off and that. Believe me, I But see, this situation really made me think about a lot of what they've really go through, meaning the restaurant and club owners. And wow. So it makes me want to work with them, and if they're going to be a little bit on the regional side, maybe they're just going through certain stress, kind of pull back, let them go through what they have to go through, to vent all this out, and then try and call back later. They usually remember that. They do remember that, and it helps. It really helps. But see, all this kind of ties in with, we all kind of work together, if you think about it. And what happens to them affects us. What happens with us does not affect them as much, because you see, they are a restaurant. Food and restaurant, let's say bar and grill, food and liquor. See, their main sources are their vendors and their chefs. They have to have them. They don't need the music. That's not a music venue. In some places, they opt to have the music, and they put on put up the flat screen TVs. Now it's a sports bar. And some of them, they don't even want to pay for the copyrights of the cover songs and all that. I talked to one guy about that. He says he's done. He's done. But that's a different subject for a different time. So we are hoping that Yucateans will be up and going after the first of the year, and we're hoping that we'll be back on the bill. Maybe we will. Maybe we won't be back there. And it's nothing. Bad karma or anything. Bad. We're still good friends with them. Sometimes you cycle through the musicians, which is that's good. And I've been used to that for a long, long time, because that's the way it's always been. But we're hoping that they do come up and going sooner than later. It's just that these videos that we'll be putting up, you're going to see from our perspective. We're driving up and down the road, especially down at Fort Myers Beach. But we do have some video footage where we walked in Yucatan's as it's gutted out. And I guess some of these places, the storm surge is like anywhere from 6 to 8 feet, some even a little bit higher. So it got flooded. It just took everything out. So there's that going on, the rebuilding, recovery. What is cool, it gives me that opportunity to go over new material, write new material, and see all the other options that's out there music wise, and other opportunities out there on the internet. Um, but it does definitely change the way you look at things. It really, really does. And I just hope for my other musician friends down here, they don't get discouraged. And really, anyone out there, you know, you could, whether you live in California, you get the earthquakes and mudslides and all that going on, or the Midwest from Texas into what's known as Tornado Alley. You know, if you're in an area where there's potential natural disasters, these are the things you got to think of. You got to always think about your other options for income. And what's really cool with that is it's like a sigh of relief where you don't have to force yourself to be this is the only source of income, because this is, like I said, this is why some people they hit the panic button, and then they start getting desperate, and then they start getting combative, you know, and nobody wants to work with someone like that. Again, when things are tough, find other sources of income. It doesn't mean you're a bad person or anything. It means you're smart, you know. Uh, so I said, Deb and I, we talked. We said, it's a good thing we didn't walk away from that, because who would have thought that after this thing hit, you know, and after we were able to go back to work, we were still able to collect a paycheck, which was great. Thank God for that. So I hope this does help people out there, um, and not just even for live gigs. Whenever there's something that troubles you and you feel like, man, no matter what I do, it seems like I'm always losing. I'm always losing. Try to look at what is your main purpose. For a lot of times I see this, these videos pop up, how to make your channel grow on YouTube and this, that, and the other, and there's a lot of great advice there. Okay, but I think the best advice is if you're not relying on the one thing for your sole source of income, or if you want to make a breakthrough in popularity or whatever, just take it one step at a time. See, if you're in it for the long haul, it's not going to bother you one way or another. Um, don't get so hit a panic button, and then that's when it could get insulting. And people don't mean to be that way. They're just stressed. Don't put yourself through stress. It's not healthy for you. You know. Yeah, it's a definitely a nice guitar. It has its own tone, like the nylon string has its own tone, especially for anything classical related or Spanish flamenco related. It's nothing beats the nylon string for that. And yeah, and I'm just putting that in because picking on this a little bit. So yeah, so not tomorrow, but Wednesday we're doing something in Bokelia, which is it's actually we're going to be passing Yucatans because we got to go up that way. So we'll be able to see some of the progress, and it's for the Pine Island. I think it's Pine Island Chamber of Commerce, and they were real specific. I guess Deb said they just no, we want Dave to come out and play, and you know I feel so honored and so grateful for that because um, there's so many great musicians down here, and I respect them all, and I just feel so honored that they'll pick me. And part of it is they like what I do. You know, Here's another suggestion for anyone out there that whether you playing a cover band and you got your originals, never ever um, stifle your own creativity, stifle your music. You know what I mean? Hold it back. Throw it in there. Play it. The reason why people won't know your music is because you're not playing it. You have to kind of say, look, this is what I do, and if you're still doing the covers, that's fine. Put it in the mix, but don't neglect that, because when time goes by, and if you in your heart you love what you're doing, you love what you're writing, you're a creative person, and you like playing in a cover band as well, as writing. But there'll come a time where you say, you know what, I wish I would have done more with my music, or at least pushed it out there a little more, because it's my passion for it is so much stronger. You can't hold yourself back and try to guess what people want to hear. I think that's kind of a mistake, you know. And again, that comes from trying to make this full time. And the average full time musician, average, I'm saying not all of them, they are trying to do it with covers. And then if you're playing the same stuff that anyone else is playing, what makes you special than that other person? It's the same thing. And I know the name of the game. Um, when you it's I'll tell you what, it's such an honor when you get hired because they want to hear you. They like your music, and that really is, then you're onto something there. So, but yeah, we'll see if we could stream Wednesday's gig. We'll probably most likely that will, and they're really cool about that because we're not trying to get in on their business. They just let me do what I'm doing. So, yep. So that's what I meant by a new chapter. It's gonna alter things. And of course, we got things that are in the works that we haven't. We're testing the waters, so to speak, and looking into things. Um, we'll keep everyone posted when I'm sure that this is another great outlet, and then we can share that with everybody one way or another. But I can't say anything about it until I really do the research on it. So, but anyways, I hope this really helps people out. Especially my musician friends that are down here. Don't let any of this get you down. You know, um, things will build back, but there could be this change. There really could be this change. I could be wrong, but it's been when it starts hitting mainstream news down here, and they start talking more and more about the food trucks, and you start seeing more and more of them. Then it's like, okay, if this is a permanent change where some of these restaurant owners say, you know what, guys, instead of building the building, let's have this open area with the food trucks, you know, and they might just, park it instead of the building, park the trucks there. So then, I'm like a makeshift type of a stage, and people will be back in business, you know, a little bit more mobile in case something happens, they could pack up and go. But definitely, I mean, who knows? If the lot rent would be um, more affordable for the restaurant owner, what could a positive out of this is that they might be able to give better pricing, more affordable pricing for the food. Or if everyone's cool with paying it, because a lot of times in a tourist area, when people are on vacation, they're there to have a great time. So if they were wise enough saving their money, they're gonna spend it. They're gonna tip good. They're gonna go ahead and buy it. Well, we're not here every week. We do this once a year, so let's go ahead. This is our thing. We saved our money. We want to have a good time. We'll spend the money. For us musicians, what that could do is maybe we could start seeing an increase in pay. Because if the restaurant owner does not have to have a building to worry about, and the food truck, let's say some people, you could buy the food truck outright if they got that much money. Boom, one shot, paid for, good to go. Now we just have our maintenance on it and our licensing and permits and that, which if it's cheaper than the building, then yeah, good to go. And they could be very generous to the musicians, we're hoping. But like I said, the worst thing to do is get all upset about it and start to vent, because now you're putting your name, if you're putting stuff up on Facebook or social media or whatever, you know not really a good idea. You know, I know it's tough, but because you could ruin your name. And once you do that, people are like, okay, this is what this guy thinks. I'm out of here. I don't want to deal with him, and that's really too bad. Anyways, my friends, I'm not, like I said, I wasn't gonna be too long on this. I want to just kind of touch on this little subject there, and pick a little bit. I definitely need new strings on this, and that, but beautiful guitar, real beautiful guitar. So yeah, we'll see if we could stream live. I think it's going to be 5:30 to 7:30. Deb's got the exact time, but we'll keep you posted. So, anyways, my friends, hope this has been helpful, and we thank you so much for tuning in and all your support and all that good stuff. Until next time, you stay strong, safe, and true, my friends. Rock on, and God bless you. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great evening.